You never forget the moment your world tilts, the moment you realize loyalty has a price you never agreed to pay. It happens quietly at first, a shift in tone, a strange pause, a look held 1 second too long. Then it breaks open like a fault line beneath your feet, revealing how fragile everything you trusted truly was. You remember standing there, feeling the truth coil around your spine, cold and deliberate, as if the universe had decided you were ready to learn a darker lesson. The person you thought would guard your name used it as currency. The hand you once held became the blade pressed against your back. And in that instant, something inside you collapsed, not with sound, but with the violent silence that follows a betrayal you never saw coming. You weren't just hurt, you were erased, dismissed, written off as if your story ended the moment theirs began. Hours felt like years as you replayed every detail, searching for the moment you might have changed the outcome, knowing deep down that nothing would have mattered. Some people strike only when your guard is down, when they sense you won't see the blow until it's already inside you. You sat in that heavy stillness, surrounded by the ruins of your own expectations, feeling the air grow colder as if even the room no longer recognized. Your reflection shifted. Your eyes hardened, your heartbeat slowed into something steadier, older, almost ancestral. It wasn't strength yet. It was the early shadow of someone you hadn't met, a version of yourself carved from the ashes of what broke. And as the hours bled together, you realized the fall wasn't just a collapse. It was a descent into awareness, a violent introduction to the truth that power is born in silence. That transformation begins the moment everything familiar is stripped away. You felt your edges sharpen. You felt something awakening that didn't care about apologies or explanations. You understood then that your fall was never meant to be quiet. It was meant to echo, to tear open the parts of you that had grown too soft, too trusting, too willing to believe that loyalty was a shared language. You saw their faces in your memory, but they no longer held power. Their betrayal became a doorway, and you stepped through it with the realization that survival requires a different kind of truth, the truth that pain is a forge and you are the metal inside it. Something ancient settled in your chest, a calm that didn't feel peaceful but purposeful. You stopped needing closure. You stopped needing them to admit what they did. Your silence became heavier than confrontation, sharper than revenge, and you felt the world tilt in your favor for the first time, because the fall wasn't an ending. It was the moment the ground beneath you split open to reveal the path only destruction could uncover. And in that shift, your story quietly began again today. You sink into the kind of silence that doesn't just surround you, it studies you. The room feels smaller now, as if the walls have learned your weaknesses and started leaning in. Every rejection, every careless betrayal circles your mind like a quiet storm with no intention of passing. You replay the moment someone you trusted twisted the narrative, leaving you stranded with nothing but questions you never deserved to carry. Nights stretch out like corridors with no doors, only echoes of mistakes you didn't know you'd made. You start noticing how the world keeps moving while you remain suspended in the same moment, the same wound, the same cold breath you took when everything changed. You feel yourself shrinking into an outline of the person you thought you were becoming. And in that shrinking, you begin to sense a darker truth, that the people who hurt you didn't just step over you. They stepped into a part of your mind you never meant to leave unguarded. You wake up each morning carrying a heaviness that refuses to explain itself. You move through familiar streets feeling like a stranger, as though the version of you that existed before the betrayal was buried somewhere you can't return to. Something inside you fractures when you notice how easily people dismiss your pain, how quickly they rewrite history the moment your back is turned. Their silence grows louder than their actions ever were. You feel the bitterness rising, but beneath it is something colder, something still forming. A quiet awareness that innocence was the first thing they took from you, and it will be the last thing you ever give away again. You stop speaking as much. You start thinking more. Your thoughts sharpen, rearrange, and tighten like armor being forged in the dark. You feel yourself turning inward, not out of fear, but out of necessity. You learn to sit with the shadows instead of running from them. You observe the parts of yourself you used to avoid, the anger, the disappointment, the helplessness, and you begin to understand why they exist, not to weaken you, but to warn you. You start seeing the patterns in other people, the way smiles hide envy, how promises dissolve under pressure, how loyalty fades when convenience ends. You recognize that betrayal is never an accident, it's a strategy for the weak. And in that understanding, something subtle shifts. Your silence becomes a kind of power. Your distance becomes a form of protection. You stop expecting apologies that will never come and start preparing for a future where you no longer need them. The darkness doesn't lift, but it transforms. It becomes a place where your old self dies, and the version that rises is quieter, colder, wiser, and far more dangerous to underestimate. You reach the point where the silence becomes louder than every insult thrown at you, where the betrayal stops echoing and turns into something colder, sharper, almost ceremonial. There is a night, not dramatic, not violent, where you sit alone with the weight of everything they did. You don't cry this time. You don't beg for answers. You simply stare at the truth. They never broke you. They only exposed the part of you that still needed to grow teeth. And in that stillness, something ancient stirs, a quiet decision that no one hears but you. You remember every moment you tried to please them, every time you shrank your power so they wouldn't feel threatened. You remember thinking loyalty would protect you, that kindness would earn safety. But now you understand the darker architecture of survival. People don't destroy you because you're weak. They destroy you because you unknowingly showed them the doorway to your strength. And tonight, you close that doorway with a lock forged from discipline, razor-edged and final. You feel the shift, subtle but irreversible, the moment your heart stops seeking validation and starts seeking direction. You tell yourself the truth with a steadiness that surprises you. No one is coming. No one owes you clarity. No one will repair what they damaged. And instead of collapsing under it, you rise into it. You rise into the responsibility of rebuilding. You rise into the uncomfortable realization that the world respects outcomes, not excuses. There's a pulse in your chest now, not of anger, but of intention. You no longer want to be understood. You want to become undeniable. The version of you that begged to be chosen is gone, dissolved in the fire they thought would consume you. You stand up, not physically, but mentally, strategically. You start rearranging your life like pieces on a board. Every weakness gets named, every habit gets questioned, every fear gets dragged into the open. You treat yourself like a fortress under reconstruction, brick by unforgiving brick. You wake earlier, you train harder, you study when your mind screams for rest. You move in silence because you finally see the advantage in it. You become the kind of person who no longer announces change. You embody it. You turn discipline into armor and consistency into a weapon they can't predict. And as the days pass, you notice the world leaning in, sensing the alteration in your presence. Not louder, not flashier, simply more controlled, sharper, focused. You feel your identity recalibrating around a new center. You will never be the person they hurt again. You will never hand anyone the blade they used to cut you. What sparked inside you was not rage, it was clarity. And clarity, once awakened, refuses to sleep. You rise before the sun because the darkness speaks to you. It reminds you of who you were when everything collapsed. You move quietly, not to hide, but to hear your own resolve. Every step carries the weight of the betrayal that tried to end you. You no longer flinch at the memory, you sharpen yourself with it. Before, you broke under pressure. Now you forge yourself inside it. The world does not notice your transformation yet, but the air feels different. You breathe like someone preparing for war, even when the room is silent. Your reflection is unfamiliar, not weaker, but stripped of illusions that once blinded you. You have stepped into a version of yourself that no longer negotiates with fear. You begin with small rituals, the kind that rebuild the architecture of a fractured mind. Cold water on your face, steady breath, the quiet refusal to fall apart again. These choices look insignificant to others, but you feel the shift beneath your skin. You follow a path no one understands because it was carved in your suffering. Discipline becomes your weapon, not loud or proud, but quiet and merciless. Each morning you stack victories so small they look invisible, yet they move mountains inside you. Before, you chased validation, now you chase silence because silence reveals truth. And the truth is simple, no one is coming to save you from who you were. So you save yourself, piece by discipline, piece, without applause or witnesses. This is the climb that breaks pretenders and crowns the patient. Your days blur into a rhythm of controlled intensity, neither rushed nor hesitant. You study patterns, motives, the mistakes that once trapped you in cycles you could not see. Each insight becomes a shard of ancient wisdom you assemble into a strategy for survival. You move differently now, not with fear, but with the calm calculation of someone rebuilding their kingdom. People sense the shift before they understand it, and their confusion fuels your ascent. They whisper about your distance, unaware it is the silence of a sharpening blade. You no longer react to provocation because reaction belongs to the weak version of you. Instead, you observe, calculate, and rise in ways they never learned to anticipate. The climb demands a different kind of strength, the kind built quietly in private battles. You win those battles one breath at a time until winning becomes your nature. The world begins to shift beneath your feet, though no one can explain why. They see you standing straighter, speaking slower, listening with an intent that unsettles. Your presence grows heavier, like someone carrying knowledge carved from suffering. You no longer chase power. You become power by reclaiming every piece of yourself they tried to break. This is the climb that transforms silence into strength and struggle into something almost sacred. And as you ascend, you know they feel it. The shift, the warning, the quiet storm forming around you. You keep climbing forward. You feel it before you understand it. The quiet shift beneath your ribs. The subtle tightening of something that used to be loose and breakable. For so long, your life was a battlefield where you swung blindly, hoping to land a single hit before the world knocked you down again. But now the air moves differently around you. The same streets that once swallowed you whole now feel narrower, as if they're adjusting to the size of the person you're becoming. You wake with a steadiness that would have terrified your old self. No shaking hand, no trembling voice. No desperate attempts to prove your worth to people who walked over your kindness like it was soft earth beneath their boots. Their betrayal didn't end you, it carved you. It stripped away the illusion that loyalty is always returned, that honesty is always respected, that effort is always seen. And in the silence that followed, you built a mind sharper than the weapons they used against you. You study their patterns, you read their tells, you navigate their motives with a calm that feels almost ancient, as if you inherited it from warriors who survived long before your name ever existed. Your movements are deliberate now. Your silence is precise. Your boundaries are no longer requests. They are gates fortified with every scar you refuse to hide. People notice the difference before you speak a single word. They feel something in you they can't explain, a control that wasn't there before. A presence that makes their voices soften and their eyes lower for reasons they can't articulate. You don't meet their gaze to intimidate. You meet it because you're no longer afraid of what you'll find there. Weakness has drained from your posture. Doubt has stopped renting space in your spine. You've learned to walk without leaving the door open for anyone to follow. The ones who once mocked your caution now imitate it. The ones who once dismissed your dreams now whisper them back to others as warnings. Your transformation unsettles people who depended on your softness. You don't break their illusions on purpose. You simply refuse to shrink back into them. Power doesn't roar around you. It hums like a low frequency only the guilty can hear. Your habits sharpen. Your instincts refine. Your patience becomes a weapon. And somewhere between yesterday's wounds and today's calm, you become the kind of person whose silence carries more weight than their threats ever did. You rise without announcing it. You advance without asking permission. You move through the world with the quiet certainty of someone who rebuilt themselves from the inside out, and now stands before others as living evidence that the storm they created never destroyed you. It forged you. You don't remember the exact moment the shift happened. You only remember the silence that followed, the kind that feels like a blade held steady against the world. You walk now without the tremor that once betrayed you, carrying a presence sharpened by every betrayal they thought would break you. The air changes when you enter a room, not because you speak, but because you don't. Power grows differently in someone who has learned to breathe inside their own ruins. It settles into your bones like a cold fire, controlled, precise, undeniable, and the people who once dismissed you sense it before they fully understand it. They watch carefully, pretending not to, recognizing the quiet authority carved from scars they never imagined would harden into steel. You rise through spaces they swore you would never enter, moving with the calm certainty of someone who lost everything and survived the funeral of their old self. You've become difficult to read, impossible to predict, and they feel that unpredictability pressing into them like an unseen hand. They hear your footsteps long before you arrive. They remember the version of you who once asked for permission, approval, mercy, and they see none of that left in your eyes. You don't speak of what you endured because your silence speaks with a sharper voice. It unsettles them, the way you no longer react to their presence, their gossip, their opinion. You treat them like ghosts walking through a kingdom they no longer rule. They avoid your name in conversations now, not out of respect but out of fear of confronting what they created. When they are asked what happened, their eyes shift first, then their posture, then their voice. They speak carefully, as if describing a fire they started but could never control. They remember the day they crossed you, the moment they mistook your kindness for weakness, your patience for surrender. They remember laughing, they remember underestimating, and then they remember how quietly you rebuilt yourself, how methodically you sharpened your focus, how brutally you cut away the version of yourself that tolerated their chaos. You didn't return to prove anything to them. You rose to reclaim the parts of you they never deserved. And now the victory they never expected stands in front of them, breathing, watching, unshaken. You move through the world with the certainty of someone who understands the cost of every step and the weight of every choice. There is no vengeance in your stride, only inevitability. The life you built is not loud, but it is undeniable. It stretches behind you like a shadow shaped by discipline, sacrifice, and the kind of inner warfare they would never survive. They see it all, the strength, the composure, the distance, and they feel the judgment of reality closing around them. You became the consequence they hoped to avoid, and when the questions reach them, they choose silence, because speaking would mean admitting the truth they fear most you won. You sit in the quiet after the storm, aware of how far you've come, aware of how different you are from the person who once begged the world to be gentle. There was a time when your voice trembled, when your worth depended on people who treated you like a disposable chapter in their story. Now they avoid your name in conversation, not because you harmed them, but because they know exactly what they lost when they underestimated. It's strange how silence becomes a weapon once you master it. They used it to break you. You use it to build something they can't touch. The old version of you died in the shadows they forced you into, but something far sharper rose in its place. Not louder, not angrier, just undeniable. You walk differently now, not with arrogance, but with a calm that unsettles anyone who once thought they understood you. They can't place it, but they feel it. That aura of someone who walked through fire and learned to greet the heat like an old friend. You learned the psychology of survival the hard way, studying people's masks, their tells, the subtle shifts that reveal who is loyal and who is hungry for advantage. Betrayal was your textbook, pain your teacher, silence your final exam. Every scar became a new line of strategy, every sleepless night a lesson written in the margins of your memory. You didn't become stronger by accident. You became stronger because you had no other choice if you wanted to stand again. And now, when people look at you, they don't see the struggle. They see the outcome. They see the unnerving calm, the precision in your decisions, the restraint that signals power rather than fear. They sense the boundaries you've built, invisible walls that only those with honest intentions can cross. You don't even need to defend yourself anymore. Your presence does it for you. The ones who crossed you feel it most. They don't speak your name because doing so forces them to confront their own pettiness, their own miscalculation. They know the truth. They tried to break someone who was built for endurance, someone who carries the resilience of ancient warriors in their blood. There's a quiet responsibility that comes with surviving everything meant to destroy you. You become a mirror for others still trapped in their own darkness. You see the same fear in their eyes that once lived in yours. You recognize the uncertainty, the hesitation, the exhaustion. And somehow, without trying, you give them hope simply by existing. Not through speeches or declarations, but through the unspoken message that if you could rise from where you were buried, then maybe they can breathe again too. Your legacy isn't revenge, and it isn't dominance. It's the truth your life now whispers into every room you enter. that the person who was once broken is now the one thing everyone is careful not to underestimate.